Greetings, my dear viewer. You're on the channel The Price of Cheating. The channel is for those who appreciate traditional family values and condemn adultery. So be sure to subscribe to the channel. Let's get started. A nervous tension gripped my chest as I drove toward the Tumbleweed Inn, the glowing dashboard clock showing exactly 3 p.m. Karen, my wife of over 10 years, had asked to meet me there, and I couldn't shake the heavy knot forming in my stomach. The Tumbleweed wasn't known for bustling afternoon crowds. Its emptiness only amplified the unease steadily creeping over me. This bar held history for Karen and me. 13 years ago, it was where our paths first crossed. Back then, it was a lively, welcoming space filled with laughter, music, and energy. It was here we shared our first dance and hours of playful banter. Today, though, the stillness of the place felt oppressive, like the charged air before a thunderstorm. Our relationship hadn't weathered the past months well. Karen's frequent late nights, vague excuses, and growing distance hinted at something deeper and unspoken. The signs had been there for some time, though I'd tried to ignore them. Subtle but unmistakable shifts, her wardrobe evolving into styles she never wore at home, a noticeable cooling of intimacy, and her increasingly rare presence in our daily family routines. I'd found myself taking over bedtime stories, dinner preparations, and juggling the everyday demands of raising Max and Megan. Watching Karen pull away, not just from me but from our children, was a pain I had refused to acknowledge. Then came the final straw. 2 nights ago, I overheard a fragment of a hushed conversation, her voice low and familiar, yet speaking to someone she shouldn't have been. It wasn't long, but it was enough to confirm what I'd feared. I could no longer deny the truth. Even so, I waited, unwilling to confront her until she made the first move. Pulling into the Tumbleweed's near-empty parking lot, I took a deep breath, steeling myself before stepping inside. There she was, seated at the bar alongside a tall man with sharp features and a practiced smirk that felt insincere. Karen's back was rigid, as if she sensed my presence but couldn't bring herself to face me. The man noticed me immediately, his expression blending arrogance with indifference. "Mark," Karen greeted flatly, her voice devoid of warmth or familiarity. No "hi, honey," or even a polite smile, just the strained tone of a stranger. "Karen," I replied evenly, my eyes flicking to the man beside her. "And you are?" He offered a smug grin. "Jason," he said, his tone casual, almost as if he were introducing himself to an old friend. I resisted the temptation to respond with anger, refusing to let them see me falter. Jason didn't hesitate. Turning toward me, he continued, "We wanted to meet here because there's something you deserve to know, something Karen and I have been keeping from you for a while now." His delivery was mechanical, as if rehearsed. I said nothing, giving him room to continue. "It's time to stop hiding," Jason said with exaggerated earnestness. "Karen and we've been having an affair for several months. It's been exhausting for her, sneaking around and lying. She wanted you to hear it from us." The words landed heavily, though they confirmed what I'd already suspected. Keeping my voice steady, I replied, "So, this is where you lay it all out." Karen shifted in her seat, her expression flickering between guilt and uncertainty. "Mark," she began softly, her voice faltering, "I never wanted to hurt you, but—" Her apology trailed off, unfinished. Jason, unbothered, placed a hand on her shoulder. "We thought you deserved honesty," he added, though his tone carried no trace of sincerity. "We never wanted to hurt you." My jaw tightened as anger simmered just beneath the surface. Their eyes stayed on me, waiting for an emotional outburst, but I held my ground. Calmly, I stepped away and moved to the far end of the bar. Josh, the bartender, offered a sympathetic look as I ordered a beer. The chilled drink dulled the edge of my emotions, betrayal, anger, and a strange sense of relief swirling together. My father's advice echoed in my mind. Let them reveal their hand before you make your move. He'd always been right about moments like these. Draining my glass, I stood and left without a word. Karen called after me, but I didn't look back. Jason's eyes followed me to the door, but I kept walking. For the first time in months, I felt clarity breaking through the fog. When I arrived home, the house was silent. Max and Megan were spending the weekend with their aunt and uncle, a plan I'd set in motion days ago. I needed time alone to think. That evening, I shared everything with my brother-in-law, Doc, whose calm, thoughtful guidance was a lifeline. "Don't rush it," Doc advised. "You've got the upper hand. Use it." I nodded, feeling resolve replace the ache. "I'll take care of it on Monday." The following day, I met with Henry, my lawyer. He had prepared everything, the paperwork, the strategy, every detail I needed to move forward. A strange satisfaction came with the process, a quiet reclamation of control. The house, now void of Karen's presence, seemed oddly peaceful. For years, I'd clung to the idea of a love that wasn't real. Karen had loved the life I provided, but not me. That realization, though painful, felt like freedom. By Monday morning, I was ready. Sitting in Henry's office, calm and composed, I awaited the moment that would change everything. The path ahead was clear, and I was prepared to take it, step by step, wherever it might lead. Malcolm, a veteran private investigator, had gone to extraordinary lengths to gather the evidence we needed. Each detail was carefully assembled, every piece of proof delivered with precision, ready to serve its intended purpose. When Henry handed me the file, the divorce papers, restraining orders, and the damning evidence Karen had fought to keep hidden, his voice carried a steady reassurance. "Mark," he said, his tone firm yet empathetic, "I'll handle everything. The papers will be served properly and she'll know exactly what's happening." I gave a sharp nod, my confidence in him unwavering. "I trust you, Henry. That's why you're handling this. Let's make sure it's done right." Our handshake was decisive, a silent pact affirming our shared resolve. Henry understood exactly what was at stake and the depth of my determination. No further explanation was needed. He already knew. The rest of the morning drifted by in a fog. Going home wasn't an option, not yet. I couldn't risk Karen sensing anything amiss. She needed to remain oblivious, left to stew in the consequences of her actions, unaware of what was coming. So I drove without purpose, allowing the miles to bring me clarity. Each turn of the wheel sharpened my focus on the betrayal that had carved so deeply into me. Karen had convinced herself she could outwit me, that her deceit would stay buried, but she was wrong. By midday, I was stationed near her office, lying in wait for the pivotal moment. Discreetly parked across the street, I watched and waited, each passing second winding the tension tighter. At 12:15 sharp, I spotted the process server approaching the office building, the manila envelope in hand signaling the collapse of Karen's carefully maintained illusion. Through the glass, I could see her at her desk, absorbed in her work, oblivious to the storm about to hit. The contrast between her calm demeanor and the impending upheaval was almost poetic. The server entered, walking directly up to her. I saw him address her by name, prompting Karen to glance up with a polite, unaware smile. But as she opened the envelope and scanned its contents, her smile faltered and disappeared. Her complexion turned ashen, her hands trembling as she tried to comprehend the unfolding reality. The server, expressionless, offered no explanation before turning to leave. His job was done. Karen sat frozen for a moment before sinking back into her chair, her body language a portrait of defeat. Then the tears came, her shoulders shaking as she crumbled under the weight of the revelation. Her boss appeared, likely attempting to console her, but their words were beyond my reach. Watching her unravel was both surreal and vindicating. This was the price of her choices, the culmination of months of dishonesty and betrayal. Witnessing her unravel brought a mix of satisfaction and finality. She had underestimated me, gambled recklessly, and lost. The rest of the day felt like a slow burn of victory. I resisted any impulse to confront her, choosing instead to reflect. Facing her at home was unthinkable, not yet. Instead, I headed to the Tumbleweed Inn, seeking solace in the dimly lit bar. As I sipped my drink in the hushed atmosphere, I waited for the call I knew was coming. It didn't take long. Her name appeared on my phone, signaling the desperation I had anticipated. I answered with deliberate calm. "Mark," she began, her voice trembling. Can we talk? I leaned back in my chair, letting the silence stretch before replying. What is there to say, Karen? Her tone turned imploring. I didn't mean for things to go this way. I love you. I always have. Her words rang hollow and I refused to be moved. No, Karen. You loved the life I provided, not me. If you loved me, you wouldn't have done this. Please, Mark, she pleaded, her voice breaking. You have to believe me. I cut her off, my voice sharp. Believe what? That you made a choice to destroy everything we built? That you betrayed me? No, Karen. You need to understand this. You've shown me exactly who you are. And I'm done. Her silence on the other end was deafening. I left her there, offering no comfort. She already knew there was no going back. A few days later, I braced for the inevitable face-to-face meeting. It had to happen, but it would be on my terms. I chose a neutral location, ensuring no advantage for her. When I arrived, her appearance struck me. The toll of the last week was etched into her swollen eyes and slouched posture. Yet beneath the exhaustion, there was a quiet acknowledgement of the finality of it all. Mark, she whispered, barely audible. I'm sorry. I met her gaze without flinching. Sorry isn't enough, I said, my tone as cold as stone. You made your bed, now lie in it. Her tears started again as I handed over the divorce settlement. No alimony, no claim to my life. This is the end. Her shock was evident as she clutched the documents, speechless. Without another word, I turned and walked away, each step severing the last ties to the woman I had once loved. With her betrayal laid bare and the consequences delivered, I finally felt the weight lift. It was over, and I was free. This concludes the story. If you like it, then put your powerful like and subscribe to the channel.